Welcome to the True That Show, a show about lifepreneurship presented with wit, humor, and banter by Deborah Drummond and Caroline Blanchard. A lifepreneur is someone who's living life the way an entrepreneur runs their business. All in. Lifepreneurs are rock stars. Lifepreneurs are people who are brave, who risk, who live full on, who think out of the box, who win this thing called life. Lifepreneurs are around us every day. They are everyday heroes. Join Deborah and Caroline, these two stage-walking women who tell it like it is. You'll learn from the most incredible lifepreneurs who will inspire you to be the best version of you. Now here are your hosts.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to an incredible interview that we have lined up for you. We've got kind of some double trouble that you guys are going to listen to. And if you can imagine working with your sibling, well, these two have a great story. So Caroline, we're going to be talking on how to think and live and kind of come at life from an Olympian. Now, I know what you're like on the soccer field, and you are full game. So when you think about the Olympics, when you think about thinking like an Olympic, have you ever had an experience when someone's like, oh my gosh, Caroline, you could be in the Olympics?
Yes, actually, I did have this experience. Not that I could be in it, but that I was in it. I was having a massage, and the lady is a psychic. And then after the massage, she was like, oh my gosh, I need to tell you, you used to be a Greek Olympian. You have the body of an Olympian. And I was just like, whoa, not training anymore, done. No, it was very flattering. She really planted a seed. Am I an Olympian? I would say, I'm no, I wouldn't be there yet, because all of you by now know I have ADD. So to focus on something for 4 years, why I love soccer this much, it's because you put a ball in front of me and I follow the ball. So that's, very focused, like a dog with a squirrel. But I don't know if I could do a sport, train for 4 years until you actually get that moment. I admire Olympians, honestly. Well, I admire anyone who is actually sticking to a routine and discipline, because that's the hardest thing in life. It's really discipline of doing it one day in and day out. It's almost like parenting.
It's almost...
I'm sorry, I feel like I've experienced it. I was a mother 3 times. So it's just, doing something day in and day out. So what's your Olympian experience, Deborah?
Well, my Olympic experience. Okay. Well, the only time I got close to an Olympic experience, now I have done 3 marathons, and I'm just about to embark on what you were talking about there. And as you know, I'm going to be going to Ireland in a year, and I'm going to be walking, 290K with my girlfriend. So we're going to do something that's going to require training for a year, but that's about it. I think my closest experience to being an Olympian was paying a lot of money to go see my daughter dance to open up at the Olympics. So she did the opening and the closing dance of the Olympics, of course, in beautiful Vancouver, Canada. And they gave you 1 free ticket. So you could either pay for the opening or pay for the closing. You know what I mean? I was like, well, and it was an investment in our athletes. That's all I'm going to tell you, how much money that ticket was. So that's as close as I got. The one thing I love about, thinking like an Olympian is, look at a lot of our audience are entrepreneurs, they're lifepreneurs, they're taking themselves to the next level. And I think we really honor and respect someone that can dedicate themselves for a long time. I do in my business world, in the sports world, people that I care and love about that are kind of break and challenge. And we've heard a lot around mindset, right? We've heard like, would you like to be like this? Would you like to push yourself to the next level? Would you like to raise the bar? Would you like to, all of that? And, we need people, we need coaches to be able to do that, or information to do that. Because the last thing that we do is it's like that, not knowing, like, how do I get to that place? And so I am so excited to have these guys on the show, because, me and Laura, we've had some good chats, right? And it's like, you're going to find out when you talk to her, the conversation continues to get expansive. And honestly, we could stay on the phone all day. And I am so excited because I just got this in the mail. So I get to do some learning myself on what they're going to talk about. But the other thing that's really interesting about these guys, and she's like, this is going to be funny. We call ourselves brother and sister. So they are a brother and sister that really work together. So I'm excited to hear not only kind of what they do, but how they do it. Because Caroline, would you like to work with your sibling?
Wait a second. Let me think about, no. No, I've worked with my siblings, actually. I did in the past. And it stayed in the past. But it was a great learning experience. And you have to learn a lot of skills. But no, honestly, it was great experiences. I'm the baby of the family. So, you know, it was all in a teaching and leading position. So that's probably at some point when I grew up and they didn't realize it. It was like, okay, like side note here, I saw my sister this past weekend and she's like pulling on it. Oh my gosh, you have white hair. And I'm like, are you kidding me? She's like, it's so cool to see that because I'm the baby of the family, you know? So they don't realize that I'm 47. And you know what? It comes with the territory. So I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, I'm not the baby anymore. Okay, so thank you for listening, everyone. You can send me your bell. Let me introduce you to our speakers today. So we are welcoming Laura Ballet and James C., aka Chris. So Chris was a coach for the US Olympians, and Laura is an amazing book writer, and I'm not going to go through her pedigree because they both have a really big one, and we will let them talk to us about them a little. So welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. So first of all, congratulations. You're both still alive and you're developing projects.
Yes.
It seems like there's no scratch or anything. So good job. How is it to work with your brother or your sister?
Yeah, it's really cool. We I think because of the way, partially how we were raised, how we continue to raise ourselves as human beings, we are really in the mindset lane of advancement. And the only way to do that is to really gain the skill set together, because I cannot write this book inspired by my brother. He cannot, continue to do his corporate, events and talk about all of this mindset work if we weren't aligned, right? You don't want to be that person that's talking about something and then it's falling apart, on the interior, right? You want to walk and talk and live and be what you're expressing. And I find for me, this is why when I do talk, everything comes across the way it does. It is so authentic. It's in my cells. It's not what I wrote about. It is who I am. It happened to be inspired by my brother, which is super cool. So it infuses that in, but we love it.
Well, back to how we were raised.
Mm.
Okay. So we're a team, if
Yeah.
you have siblings, if you have a family, that's your team.
Yeah.
And, our parents taught us very young to support one another instead of, fight and quarrel with one another. Not that we didn't do that too, a little bit, but the underlying message always was you have each other's back.
Yeah.
That just like you would any teammate, when they're down, you're there for them. When they're, when they're slow or dropping behind a little bit, hey, let's go. Come on, you got this. We got to do this. So for us, it's always been just really kind of that mindset, stemming from our parents, and they're just kind of going. And I think ultimately it was them going, we don't want two bratty little kids fighting with each other. So let's just teach them this, and then like bribe them with like things like going to the beach and dirt bikes. And if they behave, we do this. And if they don't, we take this away.
Yeah.
So they really kind of started that out with, if you two aren't getting along, we're not going to go do cool, fun things.
Yeah.
So it's pretty seamless and it's pretty easy because the majority of our relationship has been like that.
And really good communication.
Yeah.
Even if, he was living in Florida and I was, back in Connecticut, just even staying in touch. And if there were family issues, working together to deal with it and not really, kind of berating too much the negativity. Like, how can we turn this around? How can we just get it right? Kind of course correct things. Like, our brain thinks that way.
So objectively,
Yeah.
if you can't see objectively, and it's hard, as human beings, we're very selfish. You look at two babies in a sandbox, they're not sharing the toy, they're fighting for the toy. So inherently, we go to protect ourselves. My dad always told us the difference between, us being, savage and civilized was that we had the ability to hear and put other people's needs ahead of our own. So we always went at it objectively. I do feel this way. I believe in this strongly. I want this. But how's that impacting you? And what are you saying about it? And then entertaining what an amicable solution would be to that situation. Otherwise, you become overwhelmed and mired down, and things just get kind of messy. So if you can look at it objectively, if you can be kind of neutral with it for a moment and hear the other person's perspective, you may learn something that you didn't know about how you look at it. And then you could adapt and overcome those situations.
And I think that's a very cool skill to acquire for everyone listening. Figure out how empowering it is to just hold back for a minute and listen to a sibling, right? When you're in that energetic, that synergy.
Or a coworker, or a teammate.
Anyone. Yeah. Well, they were asking but listen. And
no, you listen.
No, you listen. No, seriously though, having that ability to be like, I can learn. He is smart. She has something of value to offer. Let me look at it in that perspective. And again, we represent something that really is important to us. If we don't have it right, how could we go out into the world and guide or empower and spark that in other people? So we really work at it.
But that's not to say that we're not growing and learning all the time.
Right.
We've just been versed in it from the time we were little. And then in 1997, I kind of formalized it in the program itself. And that was because I started teaching it to my athletes, and it was based on their fears. I had to figure out a way to, get people to flip and twist and catch a bar this big when they can, miss and break their arm or dislocate something, or even, break their neck. Those are very real fears and valid, but we've got to have a skill set to work through that. And if we focus on the positive things, well, do you understand the skill? Yes, I do. Are you willing to do the skill? Clearly you are, because you're throwing it 7 times. My point being, why throw it 7 times with 30% energy into it? That just keeps facilitating the fear. You can be afraid, but it's a physics formula. You need to spin this fast. You need to release at this trajectory to be at this height to catch the bar every single time. So be afraid of it, but be afraid of it with 80% effort and energy versus 30% effort and energy, because we're going to keep getting that failing result. The fear doesn't go away. It's still there. We're just not focusing on it as much. You're willing to do the skill. You understand the skill. I'm going to catch you. There's mats here. So you focus on those four positive thoughts, neutralize that one fear. So don't give the fear the overwhelming power. Understand and accept it, because you can be injured. You can be dead.
So
but
now
don't
this is
focus on that. Focus on what you're willing to do.
So now this is the beauty of the brother and sister team, because Christopher's mind thinks in that way. I wanted to know, how can I take that brilliance and put it into everyday people, right? Because he'll go talking the way he did, and some people will be like, I'll never know what it is to even walk in that type of gym. I was like, how do you give that brilliance to everyday people? A bar could be your kid. The trick could be your marriage, right? All of that balance, that same mindset and energy into everyday life, which is why I wrote the book, because I became a mom very late in life, 2-step kid. I had a whole way of navigating that nobody helped me, but I took this and I applied it to my life. And that's when I realized, oh, this is something really powerful here. This is everyday life.
So let me ask then, because we're talking about everyday life and everyday people raising the bar, if you don't mind using that.
Right.
You've had that with athletes that really are standing, facing their fear very quickly. We all have our own thing. And you say, when we use this, so please tell us, what is this? What is this that you're talking about?
The
Yes.
Jekyll
The
formula.
J3 equals E.
Yeah.
So the J is for 5 principles, 5 Jekyll principles, which we'll share.
Mhm.
And the 3 is for negative, positive, neutral energy. And the E is for empowerment. When you run through these principles, you are in the power seat of choosing your energy. You will become empowered. So very simple. You can put it in, you're having a difficult time at work, a challenge within your marriage. We all know we've gone through a lot this last year with kids with depression, eating disorders. People are on that edge of, suicide. There's a lot that we've all been dealing with. When you take in your awareness, your willingness, your accountability, critical thinking, and energy, those are the 5 principles. When you start to run through those, and then you understand I can be negative, positive, or neutral about this formula, about those principles, you automatically start to become empowered because you start to dissolve and release the pull of patterns, negative behaviors. And it really is amazing how quickly it starts to alleviate the sameness because you start to understand I can change this. I really have the ability through these principles, like you're in a fight, you have to, where's my awareness kicking in, right? What am I willing to do about this exchange? Accountability helps you find compassion and take accountability, starts to soften it a little bit. The critical thinking is amazing because it allows us the skill set of taking the emotionality and again, softening that and thinking with a clear, precise skill. And then the energy, maybe I can't go from negative to positive. I'm too angry. I'm too frustrated. I'm too upset, but I can go from negative to neutral so that we can work through transference of the pattern.
And even if you can't, the fact that you're aware of your negativity is great. So you can go into the office one day, maybe just, you just woke up and you're on, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Hey, you know what, sis, you know what, LB, it's not you, it's me. I'm taking accountability for my bad attitude right now, or just my negativity. You know what, you guys, it's not you. If I'm lashing out, if I'm being short, if I'm being snippy, that's not on you, it's on me. Hey, you know what, brother, go have some coffee, read the paper. We got this. We'll set this up. We'll take care of that. And just by that acknowledgement, it changes the limbic system, how our brain works in the 2 hemispheres. And, it's in religion, it's called witnessing. In anything else, it's once you've acknowledged, set it on camera, written it down, it pulls the hemispheres neutral. It allows you to get to a different place. But if you don't do that, you're going to stay. And then so now you're pointing the finger and people are going to become reactive. But for whatever reason, as the human condition, we like people taking responsibility, and that's the accountability aspect. But if you're not aware, you can't really be accountable.
Right.
And
if you're not willing,
habitually we rationalize, justify, it's life, it's this, it's that. So the first principle is understanding, instead of how we, are affected by people, places, things, and situations around us, we're teaching you to understand how you affect those people, places, things, and situations around you. What is your energy going out? Not how it's coming in, because we all want to point the finger. Well, she did this, he did that, da. And, we've had to deal with it in our personal lives, certainly have to deal with it in the gym. And one of the things I would do is I'd throw myself and all the other coaching staff under the bus. And then I get to the athlete and I'd be like, and what is your part in this? And they'd soften and go, well, you know what? I probably could have done it a little harder. I could have done this, that, the other thing. So it's actually easier for me with regular folks because it's just me and that regular folks. I'm like, listen, I failed you somehow. What was your part in it? And that really kind of, it takes the defenses down. And with that awareness and accountability, you then are willing to change your energy. And it's okay. Negativity is a real thing. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just a thing. What we put into it is what really determines how it affects us, how it mires us down, or how it propels us forward. Because, let's face it, a failure would be considered a negative thing. But you listen to every successful person on the planet, right, and they'll tell you how many times they failed. So if they were truly that negative, they wouldn't be successful. They took that negative experience, learned from it, pushed it into something else, what motivated them, gave them the willingness to go back and try again, to do it differently, to do this. And to your point about thinking like an Olympian, that's what they do for 4 years. They do it over and over again until they have figured out the formula that brings them success in that skill or that routine or that 100-meter butterfly or the hurdles or whatever it may be.
And the other thing that's really unique too about the formula is when you are up against, which is the beauty and the balance of this. So part of why my brother used to say, write the book, you will bridge the masses, because I am a regular person. I've gone through regular challenges and triumphs and tragedies in my life. I really know what it is like to use the formula to calm things down, to work at a marriage, to raise my children, to, when I want to quit. I'm at a point in life where most people are thinking about retirement, and I'm digging my heels in to an area that is just amazingly beautiful. A lot of people would say, oh my God, at this point, I'm not going to start to write a book. Are you nuts? And for 5 years, I sat and I wrote it because I saw how really kind of, again, I'm going to use the word softening emotionality. And my brother will tell you, I was a reactive, emotional being. Once I started, you say nightmare. Once I started really applying the knowledge of understanding, I have the ability to enter data, language, new insight, knowledge, information into my mind, and having more control through an empowerment experience, it really shifted everything for me. I also realized, I write about this in The Science of Empowerment. We become these algorithms of someone else's behaviors and thoughts and projection. And then we're left with that debris to kind of clean up that field. And here with the formula and the book, it really lends itself so beautifully to pretty quickly, you can stop the old story, you can dissolve the old patterns, and you really could create something amazing for yourself.
Life is simple, we make it complicated.
Yeah. I'll start by saying congratulations on writing the book, because I know that Chris had this whole background in being a coach with the Olympians and everything. And I'm not saying it wasn't that it was easy, but you jumped into something new, and you put it in words that people like me, who is far from being an Olympian, can understand. And it's cool because we all admire Olympians. When we look at them, we're all like, oh my goodness, like it's that big, huge show every 4 years. But none of us can visualize ourselves there, because we're like, oh, if you didn't start when you were 2, well, you're already past. So we don't make the connection that much. It's more something that we admire and watch, but not necessarily connect with. And I actually said that a few times. I'm like, I wish I could have a mindset coach who was an ex-Olympian or something like that, because to go for it for 4 years, I'm always super impressed with that. So that book is really bringing all of that theory and that method that Chris developed to help people, and I'm saying people, Olympians, really be successful. Because, Chris was explaining that in the pre-interview. Our body, our mass, our tissues and everything, we can all work that. But what ultimately wins is really the mindset will be the difference in the end, because you can take 2 gymnasts, start them at the same time, and one won't make the podium and the other one will, So thank you for that book. It's really great. And to bring us back a bit to, how can we apply this in normal life? Chris, do you have an experience that you can share with us that it was a regular person, not an Olympian?
Right. Yeah, sure. So for intense purposes, I won't use the person's name, but I had a person who suffered a spinal cord injury and was paralyzed from the neck down. Now, as a sports performance specialist, I'm wondering why this person is contacting me at all. I'm like, what? And they're like, okay, well, you do neuromuscular training. It's all based on the central nervous system. So long and short of it, I agreed to work with this gentleman, and he was at a hospital for 2 years, one of the best in the country. And they were able to do some work with him. They got him to move his arms 2 degrees.
He was paralyzed right from the neck down. They said less than 5%.
From the neck down, they gave him 2% chance of ever having a normal life again. And realistically, I think that was just to give him hope. Anyway, 7 months later, we had him walk right out of our building with no assistance whatsoever. And it was all due to the mindset. The neuromuscular training obviously is kind of crucial in his rehabilitation, but more than that, it's the will to, create new neuroreceptors. It's the will to, get those legs firing, even though some of those nerves have been interrupted and damaged permanently. And there are studies out there that will tell you that we're able to create new neurons and synapses with our bodies and brains. So we went ahead and just decided we were going to put that to the test. And we did. And, he was a regular dad before, a contractor, successful man. So I tell people all the time, Nasty Lukin's favorite food is sushi. These are just regular people, they just choose differently. Not for any other reason, but they kind of maybe fell into it. They were put into it as a kid, but they learned a skill set at a very young age on how to, really understand the reticulating activation system, that fight or flight response in our body. We all have it. We all can do it. And through the formula and through the book, we're actually going to teach people how to do that. So you don't have to be an Olympian. You don't have to be, a Fortune 500 person, because we all are in our own right as we created. But we haven't really been taught or told that, because ultimately we can't really make money off of you if you're that empowered in making your own decisions. The powers that be in the commercial industry fear that. So we're going to tell you that you need to celebrate with this, that, or the other thing. We're going to tell you if you wear this, it makes you cool. If you do this, and we're not trying to do that, because I'm a consumer like anyone else. And I fall victim. I wear the same watch. I buy my clothes at the same company that I did when I was 14 years old. And the quality of their clothes declined, but I'm still shopping there. So as an empowered consumer, I still will make those choices, but I don't have to.
And then and to bring it back to that point again, that was a gentleman that lived in our area. I was very close with his sister. I knew him well, and he really was. It was like any one of us. And when he had that tragic accident, to just again see him coming in and how it worked and what my brother did. But it was so much like, if you listened, if you were just on the side of the gym, let's say just doing your own little routine, and you listened to the words and how, my brother thought about what am I saying and how was that resonating in his mind and how can I empower him to empower himself. And I just think it was the environment. And again, I think this is the beauty of what this is. This is an Olympic, coach that worked with people that, as you said, maybe were born or at a very young age developed an expansion of what it would look like to be an Olympian. I wanted everyday people to know that even if your percentage is low, not to that extent with a spinal injury, let's say you live in a very rough area, your father you never knew, your mother is addicted to drugs, you can't see a way out. I wanted to write a book that reminds you, yes, you can. It is in you. The power of creation and imagination is already there. And the physical movement and maybe the skill set you don't have, but this is going to help spark that remembrance. Because I really do. I write about it. And I say this with everything I have in my being. I believe coded within the DNA is all the brilliance of the universe. We just aren't evolved enough and advanced enough to tap into it, but it is in there. There's no reason that we are not all living these amazing lives. And that doesn't mean rich and flying around in a jet and being an influencer and all of that. It just means within the richness of knowing what it is to be your highest and best self. And that's what I try to convey. This isn't a book about be great so you are great. It's about become your best version so you can be in service of someone else. Because when you're at that place of empowerment, you realize I don't need a lot of stuff. it's already something that happens in here. And you just want to help other people rise up to maybe a place that they haven't been able to get to yet because someone told them something, or maybe they're at a disadvantage. And I didn't want that for anyone.
And ultimately,
I'd love to interject here just a little bit, because I know that both of you, since the book's come out, and Chris, obviously you've been doing a lot of work in your sector, and you say that you're getting a lot of calls and you are going into companies. You're going into companies, and you're in, because this is so inspiring. Imagine a workplace of people that are thinking, how can I make the best out of somebody else? I'm working on myself to become the best version. And it's not about getting the Lamborghini. It's about being the best in service in what you just shared there, Laura. So maybe tell our listeners what that looks like, because I'd love to know. So I'm reading the book. I got the book. So I'm going to be reading the book. Are you going to be taking me through exercises? Are you going to be taking me through things that I'm going to write, a journal? Like, tell me, because we keep talking about the answers are here. So tell me the journey of working through the book, and then also tell me what it is that you guys do in the world to be able to move more than one person at a time with the book, like your classes, your courses, you're going into companies. So I don't know, Chris, maybe you want to start?
Sure. The one thing I want to kind of conclude with on the previous conversation is your life is your Olympics.
Yeah.
That's, when you talk about, someone being paralyzed, that will to walk again is a very defining, factor or moment. You becoming an Olympian and being on a podium is a very, defining and extrinsic moment. I want everyone to know that you don't have to be someone trying to walk again. You don't have to try being an Olympian. Your life is your Olympics. Make it that best way with the science of empowerment, with our formula. So that's how it happened, is people go, well, how do you get people to, how do you get people there? And of course it's the mindset. There are athletes abound that are stronger or better than other athletes, but it's the mindset that gets them there. Creating this formula and formalizing it into a manual, which I give to corporations now, and I go in and I usually meet with them once a week, and we have meetings and we, do workshops. It's really just about making sure they understand that if we create this network, this culture, this team, much like we are, that are, and that doesn't mean that you're not going to have, negative moments, or you're not going to be emotionally reactive, but recognize it, own it, because that way, Carolyn or Deb or Chris aren't really angry at sister going, wow, what a little, we're going, you know what? It's a moment. We get it. We may let that go all day long, or we might be like, hey, you know what, sister, enough. We get that you're off, get on, because we're all trying to get somewhere now. So it's really just about giving people the skills to accept who they are and who they are not. We all fear the monster. And that's how this whole thing started, was we talked about our fears, and I talked to my athletes about the fears. And I used to be afraid when I was a kid of the monster under my bed or the closet. And I learned, as we looked at more my insecurities, as I peeled back the layers and started looking at those insecurities, they weren't so bad. They weren't so scary. I let them debilitate me, and so the term, became be the monster, be motivated, be objective, be strong, be all these things. There's an acronym for that too in another book that will be coming out. But instead of letting the monster scare you, scare it.
Right.
And then you have a conversation going, oh, you're not so bad, monster. And you only thought I was a monster. But that just means go big, be monstrous. It's okay to be afraid. You can still get where you need to go through that fear. And ultimately, if you have a workplace doing that, that's a pretty strong place to be. Think about how much time people spend at work or in the office. Most of their life is spent there, 8 hours in bed, then you go to work for at least 8 hours. So we're looking at 16 hours of your day, not with your family, so this work environment is your community, is your family.
And it's not even, and I'm learning. So Chris is already ahead in that corporate environment. And now I am having that opportunity to go into the health industry, into a wellness aspect of it. And we were talking about that before. And really, how do you facilitate, right, or activate this community so that they understand that this is where we are? And how many people go into work and they bring everything that's unhealed and unresolved in? Not no one, but very few of us, especially in the mass population, are showing up in our work community anywhere remotely near our highest and best. We're not even doing it in our home. And I'm a big proponent on home, whatever that is to every person. I always said to my husband and my 2 children, we are a unit. If we are not aligned and we go outside, whether you ride your bike, get in your car, take a walk, the energy that we're carrying within ripples out, right? How many people get to the end of the road? There's road rage. You go to school, there's issues. You go to work, there's issues. The store, the post office, whatever, because no one really understands, again, what I'm bringing out. How does that affect others? And we're just not trained when we're kids. We're not our mind is not breeded with that knowledge, right? When you're 3 or 4. Give, it's okay. If you, like you said, the 2 kids in the sandbox, if you teach your child to give, that child to me would be brought up or raised, they would just be a very unique human being, opposed to gimme, mine, and oh, little Johnny, just share. But we never really give the language and the meaning and the purpose of what that is to be in servitude. And I think the corporate world, as we all know, is being shifted in a very big way. Mental health and mindset, holistic psychology, wellness, all of this is now moving up in the forefront, because without awareness to consciousness, without awareness to knowledge and expansion of mindset, all everyone is doing is band-aiding, and they're just rolling over the patterns. I am now championing dissolving patterns that no longer serve the highest and best. And from that program, and it's really unique to look at what my brother does and then what I've created and the synergy of it, but yet the uniqueness. And what I love about being this team is it's a real life experience of 2 people looking at it in very unique ways and perspectives. Him having the ability to work with Olympians, me being a regular mom and wife and hardworking kid, 3 jobs, and how it works and that whole spectrum of it. And that's what I really find that's kind of amazing going into a corporate world, really trying to create an environment where these people walk in and feel valued, on point, on purpose, have something to add in. Like I've never could work in a cubicle. It's why I created my own business. I couldn't handle, my mind knew someone telling me to punch a clock, when to go to lunch, how to act, dress, talk, and be. That seems so barbaric to me, and it still does. And I think we need to really get into leadership positions and allow people to play, allow their imagination, allow them to have input, allow them to be creative, home and work environment, personal and professional.
Okay. I could see Caroline's bells and whistles going up. There's so many things that she relates. So I'm going to let her take it. But so I just want to clarify for our listeners, because really we want them to have an experience with you. And so again, bringing it back to the book that you guys are now doing, so happy to hear there's another one in the works. That's what great people do. They keep building greater. And so this is the information. This is the inspiration. What you're talking about is a lot of the mindset that people will adapt after reading your guys' formula that's in the book. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's a life manual. It's not a one and done. You will read it. So just really quickly, I have readership all over the globe that are on a 4th and 5th time. Every single time they go back in, it's different because they're growing, they're changing, right? Some fears are still locked in. Some expression of freedom is starting to be born. It's the kind of book that if you have a rough moment, open it up to any page. There'll be something in there that will, again, reinforce you've got what it takes. You've got the answers. It isn't me telling you who to be. It is me reminding you of who you are. If I hope that resonates there.
So one of the fun things to do with the book is,
Yeah.
so most of my clients have been around for 12 years. So they understand the formula, they understand the principles. I've been teaching it to them since, 2008, 2009. And when the book came out, you can't really read it right away if you're in the middle of a session or if I'm doing some life coaching with them or something. But if they have it, I'm like, you know what? Flip through the pages, stop and read the bubble or the halo. And what's really crazy is whatever they're kind of struggling with or kind of, contemplating, 9 times out of 10, they stop and read the little bubble and they're like, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
So when you're having moments, just spin through, stop and read the little bubble on the side. So it may answer your questions.
I call them champagne bubbles, but they're little takeaways and they're quotes. And I've had readership that has sticky notes like all over a mirror or their car or in their pocketbook, or it's the craziest thing because there's something that resonates. Again, it's just a reflection back to the brilliance and the beauty of who we are as human beings. And it's just a way to remind us that we are kind and we are good and we are smart and we have ability and potential. Maybe we just weren't in environments that really fostered that. But my real driving force with the book was to be that voice for that person. It's in you. Don't doubt it. It's in you.
I love what you just said about, I'm not there to tell you what to do. I'm there to remind you what you can do. Gosh, I was raised like that because I was like you. I am like you, like no to a cubicle, no to anyway. And I think that just that sentence itself, if we would approach our kids more by reminding them what they're capable of instead of telling them. So that's one of my big takeaways right now. You can really see that I'm dealing with teenagers these days. So it's like, please help.
May I add something in? And this is a real life lesson that the author of the book realized just recently. There's a difference with reminding them of their brilliance and my expectations of them. And I really just recently really came upon the value of that, which was amazing.
So here's the big thing we talk about, and this lets you know that we're all working on it. I tell people all the time, have no expectations. 9 times out of 10, you're set up for failure. How many people do you know that have had an expectation and it's worked out wonderfully? Very few. That's projection. That's not living in the moment. That's not applying the principles. That's projecting or too much reflection. You're not present. You can't really do what needs to be done in that moment if you're doing this or this. That's not saying we don't learn, but we learn, we put down. And an expectation is a recipe for failure or disaster. Don't live the experience, create the experience as if it was a blank canvas or, a piece of clay that you're molding. Expectations lead to disappointment 9 out of 10 times. Why do you have them? Ask yourself why you have them.
And I think there's a difference with an expectation that, say, comes from ego and a goal or a dream and a discipline towards creating something that's important to you.
A goal is very different than an expectation.
And really the expectation that we have on ourselves and then someone else. And when I did that, when I just really, again, neutralized that, my children blossomed. Because I realized they are their own uniqueness, their own beauty. They are living expressions of what they're going through. And part of that, as a mom and a dad listening, we want the best for them. We don't want them to go down some of the maybe challenges that we had to endure. And I think that's where it comes from. But this is what I love about the book. When I just had a doctor that read it and sent me a message, the most beautiful message, and said, I can do anything now. And this woman is established. And she said, I never quite looked at it the way that you allowed me to think about it. And so I really, it's a thinking person's book. And it isn't a book that's going to give you the answers. It grants you the opportunity to tap into the answers that are already within.
I love that. So needless to say, people, go get your copy like yesterday. And you can reach Laura and Chris at thescienceofempowerment.com. And I believe that Laura will have a little offer to do, but seriously, get the book. I really, really love the fact that it's there to let your inner brilliance come out and help you find it and really live it. And who best than like an Olympian coach to give like those methods. I don't know if you've ever said that, but I've said it in the past, like when I was dragging myself to the gym, like, gosh, I wish I had an Olympian coach that would just like follow me everywhere and push me to do that and make me eat this. And, because we think that they're doing it for us, but they're not. It's just like when it's a good coaching, it keeps you on track. And that's a big difference. But it also, like, with time, changes your mindset and it makes you stronger. So I appreciated you guys so much. I feel like we could make this podcast like 4 hours and we would still be learning. So people, read the book. If you're in the area, go get Chris as a trainer.
They can reach me at jekyll7.com.
Yeah, you're gonna have to tell them that.
I'm sorry?
They can reach me at jekyll7.com.
So yeah, that's JEKL7.com.
And we will put all the information with the podcast. So if you missed it now, just look in your description. And thank you so much for being here. And Deborah, you have to know, really loves to have the last word. So I'll give you guys the last word if you want to do a final word, and then we'll leave the closing to them.
Okay.
My last word is always, every day, think about what your intention is. Before you speak, before you act, what is your intention? It's either negative, positive, or neutral. And it's all okay. Just know what your intention is.
And I would like to offer the readership, future readership, when you do purchase a download ebook for the international audience, there's a free 30-minute life empowerment coaching session based on the book that comes with the purchase of that. If you're in the USA, you get an actual copy, but international readership, it's the ebook download. But I'll know there's a way to email, we'll try to figure something out. So I know if they're ordering it from this podcast, but I'm going to leave you with my favorite quote: do not glance at the power, become the power.
That's really good. Thank you so much. Deborah, it's all yours.
All right. So wouldn't that be a great quote for next year's project? And we'll be talking more about that when you guys come back and talk about your next book. Thank you so much. What a powerful duo. And the beautiful thing about listening to you, and of course, for those that are watching the video, is that it's interesting because you have your own identities. You really truly have your own identities. Even watching you have your own identities, and it's a healthy interdependence, not a codependence. I think that says a lot about both of your ability to be in tune with yourself, right? And then have healthy relationships. And I think that whether you're looking at sports or you're looking at business or you're looking at whatever, it really comes down to healthy relationships. And like you said, Laura, it really starts with you. And to be able to have that opportunity to be able to spend some time with you, to be able to have some personal identification around what people are going to be reading, I think is incredibly powerful and honestly incredibly generous. You're going to be super busy. So if you wanted to be on our show, if you're listening on our show, first of all, we love and appreciate you. Thank you so much. There's been a lot of attention to this show because of the quality of the people we bring on. And we believe if you're listening, you have qualities that you would like to share. We would love to help put that platform, because at the True That Show, one of our mandates and missions is to really help people that are lifepreneurs and entrepreneurs. You don't have to be doing this for your business. There's lots of very cool people out there doing some very cool things. And if we can help shine that flashlight on what you're doing, it definitely makes the world a better place. And we're here to support you, because we know as entrepreneurs, it can be a little funky and it can also be a little lonely. So let us help you. Join the crazies. And so just reach out to us at debandcaroline@gmail.com. We also have some amazing products that really support the world of entrepreneurs that you're able to access and get information from our show in terms of books and planners and what have you. And we always leave room for entrepreneurs to be able to play in that format as well. And so thank you so much for being our listeners, and thank you so much for joining the show. And we look forward to you guys coming back on.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.